go.
That's a great question. There he is. He wanted to make his entrance. Hi, Larry. Good, how are you?
I saw your truck out there. I parked next to it.
My eco-friendly truck? We're basically a catalog with it now. I always do that. It's a toy until it's not.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of Bella Vista City Council for May 27, 2025. First item is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Council members Isbell,
Here.
Hanschel,
Here.
Harp,
Here.
Hughes,
Here.
Newport,
Here.
Wilms,
Here.
and Mayor Flynn is here.
Here. First item is citizen input. Per the rules, there's a 3-minute per person time limit to address the council on any topic of that person's choosing. The first person on the list is Gary Elbert of 17 Mary Kirk Lane.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Gary Elbert, and I am a new Bella Vista resident. My wife and I were drawn to Bella Vista's small-town atmosphere and strong community spirit. However, we are finding that there is a threat growing in the community. You can imagine our deep concern when we discovered that 3 out of 10, a full 30% of our lakefront neighboring homes are on our short cul-de-sac street are short-term rentals. It is not easy to find reliable data regarding short-term rentals in Bella Vista. Even your own planning and development webpage that is supposed to be updated every business week has not been updated since November of last year. These short-term rental properties, mostly owned by out-of-town investors, not owner-occupied, are not homes. They're businesses operating in the middle of our neighborhoods, and the consequences are real. First, it is making available housing more scarce and expensive. When homes become short-term rentals, they're taken off the market for families and retirees who want to live here long-term and sustain our community. Second, our neighborhoods are being disrupted. I know we have all heard the complaints. Late-night parties, overflow parking, strangers coming and going every few days, no accountability. This is not about being anti-visitor. It's about protecting the peace and safety of our residential neighborhoods. Third, and perhaps most importantly, we are losing our sense of community. Strong neighborhoods are built on relationships, on knowing your neighbors, watching out for one another, and sharing a sense of responsibility. That is impossible to do when the house next door turns over every weekend. So what can we do? We're not asking for a short-term rental ban. We're asking for balance. I respectfully ask the council to seriously consider the following: reduce the limit of non-owner occupied short-term rental permits to 400 citywide, down from the current cap of 600. This would represent a level more in line with communities trying to preserve their charm and character. Additionally, please add that no more than 5% of homes per subdivision may be permitted on short-term rentals to avoid clustering. No new permits should be issued on subdivisions that already meet the 5% saturation threshold. Increase the annual application and renewal fee to $250, with fees used to fund enforcement staff and permit management. Provide public notice to neighbors within 200 feet when a new permit is applied for, with a 14-day comment period. And lastly, publicly list permitted short-term rental addresses and any violations on the city website for transparency and to provide assurance that the 3-strike penalty is being enforced. These are fair, proven steps other cities have taken to preserve community and livability. I ask the council not to let Bella Vista become unrecognizable. These amendments would allow Bella Vista to strike a balance, preserving tourism and economic opportunity for residents while protecting housing, neighborhood character, and community integrity. This isn't about punishing responsible hosts, it's about setting reasonable limits, so we remain a community of neighbors, not a collection of weekend rentals. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. The next speaker is Suzanne Saltz of 15 Mary Kirk Lane. Wasn't sure if I got the last name right.
Yes, Saltz, you had it right.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Suzanne Saltz, and I live on Mary Kirk Lane, also here in Bella Vista. When I purchased my lakefront property 11 years ago, this was a neighborhood, a real neighborhood. At the time, there were no short-term rentals on our street. People knew their neighbors, looked out for one another, and took pride in the community we were building. Today, that has changed. 1/3 of the lakefront homes on my street are now non-owner occupied short-term rentals. These aren't homes anymore. They're investor-owned businesses operating in residential areas. Let's be honest, homeowners who rent out their houses as short-term rentals are investors. They've purchased a property for which they intend to make income, and in doing so, they bring in a constant stream of visitors, people who often don't share the same sense of responsibility, respect, or connection to our community. I understand that tourism plays a role in our local economy, but let's be clear, Bella Vista has always marketed itself as a city where nearly 30,000 people call it home. A quote, great place to live and play, as the city website proudly says. Live and play, not visit for a few days and party. When lakefront homes become revolving short-term rentals, the impact is magnified. We're not just talking about traffic or noise, we're dealing with late-night parties that echo across the water and guests who don't understand or care about community norms, the neighborhood, or the families next door. What happens when investors buy up our lakefront homes? It means fewer homes for families who want to live here. It means more noise, more trash, less accountability, and the gradual erosion of what makes Bella Vista feel like a community. This isn't just about inconvenience, it's about identity. Are we still a residential city with strong, livable neighborhoods, or are we becoming a resort town where long-term stability is sacrificed for short-term profit? Lakefront property is the crown jewel of Bella Vista, but if we continue to allow outside investors to commercialize these limited and sensitive spaces, we risk losing what makes it truly special. Families are being priced out, and those of us who live here for years are watching our quality of life slip away. So I ask, what is the city doing to preserve Bella Vista's lakefront neighborhoods as a place to live, not just rent? How are we protecting the long-term character of this community for those who live here, raise families here, and care for the lake year-round? This isn't just about property values, it's about the soul of our lakefront community. Let's not trade long-term viability for short-term revenue. I am not against short-term rentals. I simply believe we need thoughtful rules in place that prioritize neighbors, protect the community, and preserve what makes Bella Vista a great place to live. If our leaders are truly committed to their constituents, we need timely, balanced policies that put residents first. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of citizen input. It's time for council member reply. If anyone would like to speak, Shay.
Wanda, I think we're having a technical issue. I just wanted to address that in case it impacted the recording before we moved on to this important part.
Talk on your mic, please.
It's been making quite a bit of noise. Okay. Oh, Greg?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, if they could email what you read tonight, if you could email that to us, I'm sorry. It's just, that's a lot of note-taking, and if you could email that information to us, that would certainly help, because, I mean, I understand and agree with the concerns that you guys have, and I just don't want to take it, just kind of like in passing. Then that way, it's just kind of a reminder to me too, to make sure that I address you too, if you would please. Thank you.
Anyone else? Wendy?
So Gary and Suzanne, thank you for coming and speaking tonight. That's some really good food for thought. And like I said, thank you, Craig, for suggesting to email that to us so we can kind of read over it a little bit further and kind of consider what we can do to help protect both private property rights as well as making sure all citizens can feel safe and feel valued in their own community.
Anyone else? Larry?
I guess I'll maybe close it up for the council, I'm not sure. I guess the issue of STRs has been around Bella Vista. We've been pretty notorious in Northwest Arkansas. We've been sued twice, settled on a negotiated resolve on the second time. And we have legislators, unfortunately, in the Northwest part of the state that seem to believe that STRs really shouldn't be regulated at all. We've had two challenges in two sessions, the 23 session and the 25 session of the legislature. Proposals from both Senate and House representatives in the Northwest corner, some of them representing Bella Vista included, have actively pursued hands-off regulations for STRs. So you need to speak with the folks at the state level as well, probably, and share those things. They don't seem to want to believe representation and speakers from the municipality who have appeared before the Senate and the and the House committees that deal with this particular issue. We've been successful, knock on wood, in keeping it from being passed, but both sessions, 25 and 23, it was close. In fact, this time closer than before. It got out of both the House and the Senate last time in 23. It failed to get out of committee in the House. We were successful in that. We meaning the League of Municipalities, other communities in Bella Vista, but Bella Vista was hot on that trail because we had a concern about it here. Of all of the cities in Arkansas that have regulations for STRs, we think that maybe, at least I'm aware of, only Bella Vista has been sued. I don't know if there's any others or not, but just us.
Fayetteville has also been sued.
Who is?
Fayetteville has also been sued. There's an appeal pending for the Supreme Court on that.
Okay,
right now.
so that one's another one, okay. So anyway, we need to communicate with the local council here. I don't know how the current council stands. We've changed with 3 new councilmen, Anna and Shay and Travis,
yeah.
are 3 new ones. So we don't know where they stand on all of those issues because we haven't been challenged here and we haven't had a vote here on an ordinance. So we may have a different position at this time as a city. Thank you for attending and sharing with us. What you've said is true.
Shay?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight and look forward to reading the email. And I also appreciate you sharing your experience, but also sharing, it looks like some well-researched suggestions. So I appreciate hearing from you on what you see as the solution as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready to move on. Next item is reports, and we have the monthly financial report for the period ending March 31, 2025. So far this year, the reports look pretty favorable. The city income tax is up 14.6% over last year. County sales tax is up 7.9% over last year, that's a big improvement over what they've been doing. Overall, the operating revenues were up 9.4%. So it's very encouraging through the first few months. On the other side of the ledger, the operating expenditures are $807,000 under budget. And I'm hoping to continue that on. That almost wiped out our deficit, well, pretty much does wipe out our deficit that we had budgeted for. So I'm hoping to continue that on, and in the future. I do know we had a few vacancies, and a lot of times it takes a little while to replace people, so you end up having some inadvertent savings that way. But that's still a good number. I appreciate all the department heads trying so hard to control things. So that's the financial report. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules of order and procedure to allow all ordinances on the agenda to be read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Travis Harp. Roll call vote.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. The next item is the consent agenda, and I think Larry Wilms has a comment about that.
My request would be to remove Resolution C for separate consideration under new business.
So we'll go ahead with the consent agenda with that item removed, since it just takes a single councilman to ask for that. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
That was Wendy, and second by Anna Isbell. Roll call vote.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. The next item I think then we should probably take is the resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a 3-year lease contract with Stronghold Data LLC in amount not to exceed $31,269.46 for the lease of Dell computers and associated equipment. Larry, did you want to comment on that?
I do. I have two comments on the contract. One is in Section 11, talks about non-solicitation. There's a penalty to the city if we were to hire one of their people that hadn't resigned from their employment prior to engagement with us. And I find that to be uncommon. It's not unusual, and I've seen it before, but you don't see it often. It's kind of a specialty type of service where they're looking to protect their people from being stolen by their clients. And I've known that to happen in several cases, and also I've known where this paragraph is in there, but I want everyone to be aware that it is in here. So we are not about to hire anybody from their firm, or we have a very severe penalty financially. The second item is on Section 12, General Provisions. Under sub D, they talk about the agreement. Normally, if we enter into an agreement, it's the laws of the local community where it occurs, I believe, is the one where the jurisdiction prevails. Is that correct, Counselor?
It's whatever the contract calls for in terms of jurisdiction or venue. My recommendation is always that that either not be specified or that any jurisdiction or venue of any dispute be in Arkansas or Benton County, Arkansas. But that's not a legal requirement that we do that.
Right.
And this does not, you're right, it's talks about Jasper County, Missouri, which is Joplin. And we have, though, an excellent working relationship and course of dealing with these people over numerous years. And so, the risks of something are very, very small. It's not illegal to enter into it. We get contracts where they want to limit us to the Bronx, New York or something, and that's unacceptable. If we can negotiate it, a lot of times we can't negotiate it, especially if it's a big company. It is what it is. But you're right, that agreement says if there are any disputes that it's to be handled in Jasper County, Missouri, which is Joplin, pursuant to Missouri law, and I'm an Arkansas lawyer, not a Missouri lawyer, so worst case scenario, if we ended up in court, it would have to be in Missouri, and we'd have to have a lawyer represent us there. But we are not prevented from doing that, and I see the risk as minuscule.
Now, the reality is that we've had, what, 4 or 5 or 6 contracts with Stronghold before. I would understand and assume that these provisions were in all of those contracts, and we have not seen any issues about it.
I haven't held them up to one another to compare, but they look very similar to me, and I would feel comfortable saying they're the very same deal we've done for the last 3 or 4 years.
And so I just wanted to bring those 2 conditions to the attention of the council so that they're aware of them if they haven't read the contract in detail. So beyond that, I would make a motion to approve the contract.
Is there a second?
Second?
That was Larry Wilms and Wendy Hughes. Roll call vote.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Thank you for that. Next item, there's no unfinished business. Under new business, ordinance amending section 1630, temporary portable storage containers of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to allow permit fees to be adopted by resolution of the City Council declaring an emergency and for other purposes. Taylor, did you want to speak about this for a minute?
I did add a few notes on the regular meeting cover letter for you guys, just based off the conversation that we had at the work session last week. Just to clarify a few things, this does not set a fee. Only you guys can set a fee. That would have to be through right now via ordinance should you set a fee. But if this is approved to change it to resolution, you would then need to adopt a resolution that set a fee. So approving this would not set a fee tonight. It would be $0 as already approved by City Council. That is the fee, it is $0. I did add just some clarification for the emergency clause as well in my staff report or memo to you guys, clarifying an incoming act. It's 591 that goes into effect August 4th or 5th, I believe, but one of the requirements of that is that the city has to have one master schedule of fees to represent the city. Per that new act. And so it's just much more clean, and it's a better tool for you guys if you can approve that one master schedule of fees with one tool instead of separate. So all this is a cleanup for you guys, making it easier for you to basically comply with state law. So add that to clarify for you.
Larry?
Yes, my question is, do we have regulations on temporary portable storage containers now? Do we have any regulation on them?
Yeah, you have to get a permit, it's free, and it basically says you can have a pod or a temporary storage container on site for up to 30 days in the residential zone.
So we have a provision for the permit now, which is, as I read this thing, section 1H, and that's a quote from our current code? Is that a quote from our current code?
The only thing
It says
that's,
permit required?
yes, there's already a permit required,
So
we already issue them.
So we're regurgitating what our code says in that section.
All we're changing is that you approve it by resolution instead of an ordinance, so that way it's set with all the other permit fees.
Well, what we're creating is the ability to set a fee by resolution.
Yes, instead of ordinance.
Right.
Which is what it is currently.
And currently, we have no fee.
You set it to $0.
So what is the urgency of the emergency clause? I failed to
The
get.
emergency clause is
Yeah.
because we have to comply with state law by August 5th by having a master schedule of fees,
Okay,
okay? And so we need to be able to approve that in one form instead of me bringing one resolution to you and several ordinances. It's just easier to have that one master document that we're required to have to be approved and amended and changed as needed with one tool instead of several. So that's all this was a cleanup method for you guys.
So
And we need
what-
to do that by August 5th,
by when?
before August 5th.
August 5th?
Or 4th.
August 4th or 5th?
Depending on how you interpret the day that legislature closed.
Okay.
So this is the first step to another step that we're working in towards bringing you guys into compliance with that schedule of fees.
So if it needs to be effective then, why do we need the emergency clause? I fail to
Because
comprehend
we will
it.
return in June with a master schedule of fees that you hopefully can approve with just one tool, one path instead of multiple.
Okay.
Because, yeah, this wouldn't take effect without the emergency clause till 60 days from the time that she publishes it in the weekly Vista. And so then I'd have to come back after that 60 days with the master plan instead of being able to have that master schedule of fees now in
So my
June.
question is, do we have a flaw in our procedure that we have to adopt the whole schedule at one time, that we cannot add to it by single ordinance?
No,
It's all done separately right now, that's the issue. We have some permits that are set by ordinance and some that are set by resolution. And we're trying to clean that up. I'm not sure why they were written that way.
I think it's viewed as an improvement to do it this way. To
Well,
have
I'm
all
not-
the fees one place and then look at them all at once. And
Because I know we have a fee schedule now, and many of the ordinances that we have refer to that fee schedule, and that I'm assuming we can adjust the fee of any one of those items on that schedule individually without adopting a whole new schedule. Is that true or not?
That's true.
So
But that's not this one. This one is set in stone with an ordinance currently.
Mr. Wells,
so what we're doing is changing from an ordinance setting
The current regulations on these portable containers say they have to have a permit and there's no charge for the permit. That's not a
so
word for word, but
so
that's
we've
basically
adopted
what it
that by
says.
resolution then, is what
No,
you're saying?
that's an ordinance of the city.
Okay.
They threw that, and so if you want to change that and require a permit fee, you've got
Yep.
to amend, you've got to amend the ordinance to
provide
put a
for the
fee in
fee.
there.
To provide
So,
for the fee.
so what, and Taylor's doing a great job of explaining, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all we're trying to do is to have one method by which all the permit fees are established. She needs to be able, we need to do this on one fee schedule and one resolution to bring to you before August, is what she's saying. So we've got to change this ordinance so that it is in effect, and you can lawfully do that by resolution in time.
So this is
And
the,
you might set it to zero in the resolution. You don't, this isn't saying you
Yeah,
have to
right,
set a fee,
right.
but it will allow it to be set by resolution.
it'll be a line item in there with a blank.
And frankly, all of them are blanks, because you determine what all of them are.
So is this the only one that we have in all of our code of ordinances that doesn't have a rate?
We fixed the right-of-way one in the winter, if you remember. That was also set by ordinance, and we changed that to resolution. This
But we
should be
don't-
the last one.
We have no others anywhere, huh?
I'm not aware of one, but
We had two.
Ms. Robertson really knows that code, that part of the code a lot better than I do off the top of her head.
All right. I was just surprised, I guess. All right, thank you.
I'll just say, the last update we did in '22 was pretty involved because we had to check several ordinances to make sure it was all complying.
Yeah.
This would just make it one and done. So that's
Okay.
all we're trying to do and help
All right, thank you.
you guys out. So. Anything else?
Oh, Travis?
Yep, my issue with this is, and I watched the work session earlier today, and around the 6-minute mark, Taylor, you mentioned that we want to do this to streamline and start collecting a fee. And then later on in the work session, around the 12 or 13-minute mark, I can't remember, our attorney asked that, well, we don't even have the intent of implementing a fee, is that right? And you said, yeah, that's right, we're not trying to implement a fee. So you contradicted yourself for one, and I have a problem with that. But the other part is, I don't support having a fee for this, so it doesn't make sense to go on the fee schedule. To me, it would make more sense just to adopt the ordinance how it is and scratch the fee part out if we can't have the word fee in there, or free, because it currently says free. And this is a permit that I think should be free. Just recently, one of my family members in the Greenland area was a tornado victim, and so they had to have these pods delivered to their house so they could put what belongings they still have that are in operational order into a storage container, and then they had to go and find another place to live for now. And so implementing a fee on top of that is troublesome, and I don't agree to do that. And the same with welcoming somebody new to our neighborhood with a fine or a notice of violation or a demand to pay the fee. I don't think that's a good practice, and I don't support that. So if I could vote no 2 times on this, I would.
Wendy?
For further clarification, the council has the ability later to set a fee if we choose to set a fee, but we are not currently setting a fee. We are purely just moving this from ordinance to resolution. Okay.
Correct. No fee is being set with this. It will remain at $0 should you approve this tonight.
But the point of doing this is to collect the fee. Am I correct?
My intent was to create a tool for you that is the same for all of our permits.
Mayor,
Anna?
I don't think the intent is to set a fee. If there's a fee that's desired, that is up to us, the 6 of us, to vote on it. That's all the clarity we need. If we want a fee, we add a fee. If we don't, we don't. It's that simple.
Larry?
I have a follow-up question. Travis brought up a very interesting point. I think part of the response to that would be that if we had an emergency condition in Bella Vista, we could waive those fees or portions of those fees as applicable that would affect more of our citizens. This has been done in other states and by other communities, so that's not an unusual thing. So we could address that if we need to reduce the fee or eliminate the fee for a particular permit. My question here is that on the TV set, the pods, PODS, is a container device where you are going to move and you ask for 2 of them to be put at your house or 3 of them, however many you need, and you pack them. Then they take them to temporary storage, and then when you are in your new location, they will deliver them to your new location. So is there a permit for either of those instances where you get them for moving or you get them for delivery of your moved material because you're relocating? Is there a fee to have that done? Because they may be there for 20 or 30 days.
It doesn't differentiate between the circumstance. It's just you get 30 days in the residential zone. for
What's that?
on-site. It doesn't differentiate between uses, which I believe is what you're asking. So whether they're moving or they're relocating, whatever it is, it depends on zone. If it's residential, they get up to 30 days to have that pod out there. If, regardless of,
Without a permit?
no, they need a permit. It's a free permit,
Right now it's free, but,
and it's going to stay
so,
free.
so if someone were to want to use the pod system or the container system to move, there would be no charge for having that in their yard. And if they moved here and used the container system to move, there would be no charge for having that container delivered for them to unload. Is that right?
All we look at is if a pod is placed on site in our city limits that we have jurisdiction over, and if it's zoned as residential. If they do that, they need a free permit for up to 30 days.
So no matter how you do it, so if I were to move here and I packed up in pods, and so they delivered those to my house, I would need to get a permit for that. Is that correct?
If those pods are in your the city limits of Bella
All
Vista,
right.
in a residential
So
zone,
the
yes,
answer
sir.
is yes, there would be a charge. And so is it a charge per pod?
But it's
or per-
free. The permit is free.
Is there a charge per pod or permit per pod or a permit for a whole bunch of pods?
Just a permit for
So I
one
can have
pod,
3
and
of
it's
them at
free.
my house and you're only going to charge me for one.
You can have 1,000 and they'd be free.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Greg?
Okay, so instead of demonizing Taylor, because this is a requirement by August 4th, 5th, by the state, correct?
To have one singular master schedule of fees.
That's correct. Okay, so you, Taylor, you're not coming forward with some awful pod something or other. This is pretty straightforward. If we want to adopt this puts it all in one format, one place, no fees attached. You didn't do anything. This isn't a you thing against the pod people. This is us streamlining and getting our ducks in a row, correct?
Correct, just trying to
Okay.
help streamline approval.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second, third,
That was Craig and Shay.
Hang on, that's out of order. This is on first reading, it's an ordinance.
Yeah, good point.
So I would be inclined to want to have another reading on this. We have time. And it's, we're looking at it as adopting it by the emergency clause anyway, so it's going to be.
Motion to
adopted.
suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Second.
Second.
That was Wendy and Craig.
To do what?
To suspend the rules
Go to third
of
and
order
final.
and procedure and go to third and final reading. Roll call vote.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
No.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
and Wilms.
No.
Motion carried 4-2. I'll read it for the third and final time. Amending section 1630, temporary portable storage containers of the Code and of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to allow permit fees to be adopted by resolution of the City Council declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Craig and Wendy Hughes. Roll call vote on the motion to approve.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
No.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms.
No.
Motion carried 4-2.
Okay, Mayor, we need to have a motion, and a second on the emergency clause.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we need a motion on the emergency clause, if anyone's so inclined.
A motion to enact the emergency clause.
Second.
That was Shay, and was that Anna? Okay, I was looking the other way. Shay and Anna, a roll call vote on the emergency clause.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
No.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
and Wilms.
No.
Motion carried 4-2. Next one is a resolution amending the 2025 city budget to appropriate available reserve funds in the amount of $38,500 to fund an impact fee study. And this study would be by Tischler Bice. And there was a rather lengthy attachment that explains about the firm and what they proposed to do in the study. They enacted our first, or helped us enact our first impact fee, I believe it was 4 years ago. And this is kind of an update just to look at everything, and which is common, especially, you know, when I talked to him on the phone, he was quite impressed with how much things had changed and how much had happened in the last 4 years. So it's common to kind of do an upgrade, so to speak. So Shay asked me a question for the meeting, which I thought was a good question, which was, are we just looking at the existing things? Because right now it's on police, fire, and library, or are we looking at other things also? And the answer is we're looking at other things to see what we might do, you know, just in general. I mean, all areas are possible, so.
So are we going to look at other things? What other things we're going to look at? Are we specific and have directed them?
Well, I think we'll look at anything, but in particular, people have had an interest, as you know, in roads, and a little bit of frustration that we weren't able to figure out how to do things on that last.
And that has a real large cost impact on us,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
That's a heavy-duty thing.
Travis?
Will sewer be involved in that impact fee as well?
It could conceivably, I don't know if we'll be far enough along yet to include that, but.
And my other question is, we don't have somebody on staff that could do this study? Is it so specialized that we need to do it outside?
Oh, well, that's a good question. You know,
Probably.
Jason might be a little more eloquent in this regard, but the history of impact fees is that early on, in the early days, we actually got in the game kind of late. They've been around for quite a while. Cities were charging amazing amounts, like $25,000, $30,000 a house, things like that. And so there was litigation about it, national litigation. And so it became a big thing how you had to justify the impact fee, because you can only really charge for the parts that have to do with growth. And of course, cities have all kinds of expenses that occur other than the ones that are caused by growth. But when you have growth like we do, it's pretty easy to it. So the point is, what Tischler Weiss does, it became kind of a cottage industry, and they're kind of the #1 guys in the field. But what they do is they study it and identify things. So it makes you bulletproof from litigation. Otherwise, builders could sue you and say, hey, you're being prejudiced against us. So.
Thanks for that clarification.
Mayor.
Larry?
I guess the only thought for the council is to be aware that when we adopted our 2025 budget in December of last year for this year, we adopted a budget that was $750,000 to be borrowed from our reserve funds to cover the balance because it was not a balanced budget. We then, early in the year, we approved an expenditure for a contract that we felt was deserving for about another $50,000. So we are currently $800,000 over and above what our approved revenue and expenditures were in the 2025 budget. This will then make us, with $38,500, will make us $838,500 that we'll need to potentially borrow from our reserve funds to balance our budget at the end of the year. Now, the report that we had from the mayor tonight, that our financial position was very positive, and that's not likely, but we still need to be aware that we could be in reality where we started the year, and that was a deficit. So I just want the council to be aware of that. I certainly am, but I do believe that the benefit of doing this study outweighs the potential risk that's here, so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Shay and Larry. Roll call vote.
Council members Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. I'd like to read the announcements. Next city council work session is 5:30 p.m. Monday, June 16 at Bella Vista Police Training Room. Next city council regular meeting is 6 p.m. Monday, June 23 at the district court. Planning commission work session 4:30 p.m. Thursday, May 29 at the district court. Planning commission regular meeting 4:30 p.m. or immediately following the Board of Zoning adjustment Monday, June 9 at district court. And Board of Construction Appeals 3 p.m. Tuesday, June 10 if necessary at Fire Station Number 4 Conference Room 1639 Forest Hills Boulevard. I was asked to also mention that there's a builders meeting Tuesday, June 3, between the city and builders, 2 to 4:30 p.m. at the rec center. That's Tuesday, June 3. Anna?
If it's okay, I just wanted to recognize a few of our new library board members that came to the meeting tonight.
Oh, okay.
That was part of our, a condensed resolution. So thank you, so many of you, for coming today and for joining the library board. I know Susan Visser can't be here. She's under the weather, but she sends her regards to Mayor Flynn and Susan. And thank you each for showing up tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.